The morning sun cast long shadows across the Montana Research Facility as Nora Simmons peered into her microscope. 5 years had passed since the Vress arrived on Earth. 5 years since humanity surrendered to their superior technology. 5 years of pretending everything was normal. Nora adjusted the lens, studying the leaf sample. In the next room, she could hear the clicking sounds of her supervisor, Commander Zixtal. The tall insectoid alien moved with precise, mechanical steps that still made her skin crawl. Progress report, Human Simmons. Zixtal appeared in the doorway, his compound eyes reflecting the laboratory lights. Just finishing the catalog of native plant species from the western region, Nora said, forcing a smile. Everything meets your approved parameters. Excellent. The Vress commander's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The collective appreciates your efficiency. Nora nodded and returned to her work as the alien left. When she was sure Zixtal was gone, she pulled out her hidden notebook and made real notes, observations the Vress would never see. Notes about how the engineered ecosystems were failing without predators. Her phone buzzed. A text from her brother Alan. Fishing trip this weekend. The lake is beautiful this time of year. Their code. Alan needed to meet and had information. That evening, Nora drove her old truck down the dirt road toward their family cabin. The Vress had established biodomes across major cities, but rural areas like this had less monitoring. She parked behind the cabin and found Alan waiting on the porch, his ranger hat pulled low over his eyes. "You weren't followed?" he asked, scanning the tree line. "No. The Vress trust me now. I'm the compliant biologist who helps catalog Earth's less threatening species," Nora said, making air quotes with her fingers. Alan's face was grim as he led her inside. Maps were spread across the kitchen table, marked with red circles. "They're expanding the western biodome next month," he said, pointing to the forest regions. "Everything wild will be replaced with their improved versions." Nora felt sick. Improved meaning docile. Controllable. Exactly. Joe from the resistance cell in Bozeman says they've modified rabbits to only eat at specific times. Birds that won't sing except during approved hours. Ellen ran a hand through his hair. "It's like they want to turn Earth into a giant zoo." Nora studied the maps. The Vress believe they're helping. They think wild things are dangerous and inefficient. "What's your work like now?" Ellen asked, pouring them both coffee. "I'm cataloging species they consider safe for reintroduction." Zixtal rejects anything with teeth. She sipped the hot coffee. "Yesterday, I suggested reintroducing foxes to control the rabbit population, and you should have seen his reaction. His whole exoskeleton practically vibrated with horror." Alan leaned forward. "What about wolves?" Nora laughed without humor. "Wolves? They're at the top of the forbidden list." Zixtal called them unhygienic pack hunters with unpredictable behavior patterns. The Vress hate anything they can't predict. "That's interesting," Alan said, his eyes lighting up. "Because Sam and Lisa from the Northern Resistance Unit claim they've seen wolf signs in the restricted wilderness zone." "Impossible. The Vress eliminated all large predators in the first year." Ellen pulled out a phone and showed her a photo. A large paw print in mud, next to a ruler for scale. "This was taken 3 days ago, 50 miles from here. And there's more." He swiped to another image. A distant shape, gray against green forest. Even from far away, there was no mistaking the silhouette of a wolf. Nora stared at the photo, her heart racing. "How? The Vress have heat sensors. Drones." "Maybe wolves are smarter than the Vress think," Alan said, grinning. "Maybe Earth isn't as tamed as they believe." Outside, the sun set behind the mountains. Somewhere in those distant forests, something wild still ran free. For the first time in 5 years, Nora felt a spark of hope. 3 days later, Nora stood among a crowd of humans in the town square. Giant screens showed a Vress spokesperson announcing the Restoration, their new wildlife program. The aliens' mandibles clicked with excitement as it described how they would release improved animals into controlled wilderness zones. These enhanced species have been modified for optimal performance, the Vress explained. They will maintain the beauty of Earth's ecosystems without the disorder of natural selection. People around Nora nodded and smiled as they were expected to do. 5 years under Vress rule had taught most humans to hide their true feelings. Back at the research facility, Nora reviewed the list of approved animals. Deer that would eat only specific plants, squirrels that wouldn't dig in unauthorized areas, birds with predictable migration patterns. Not a single predator larger than a fox, and even those had been altered to be less aggressive. Commander Zixtal, Nora asked carefully, I noticed there are no wolves on the list. Wouldn't they help control the deer population? The Vress turned sharply, his compound eyes gleaming under the laboratory lights. Wolves are classified as extreme risk species. They form unpredictable social groups, communicate in ways we cannot fully monitor, and refuse genetic stability. Nora kept her voice neutral. 3 attempts at modification produced specimens that either perished or reverted to wild behavior patterns. Zixtal's antennae twitched with irritation. The collective has determined that unpredictable pack hunters have no place in a civilized ecosystem. Nora nodded and looked down at her notes. I understand. That evening, Nora drove to a small diner on the edge of town. She chose a booth in the back corner where a woman with short red hair was already waiting. You must be Kelly, Nora said quietly as she sat down. The woman nodded. Alan told me you wanted proof. She slid a small device across the table. These are from our camera traps in the North Wilderness. Nora took the device and looked at the images. Clear, sharp pictures of wolves. Not just one, but a pack of at least 7. A large male with silver-gray fur seemed to be the leader. We call him Ghost, Kelly said, watching Nora's face. He's smart. When our drones go out, the pack disappears. When the drones leave, they return. That's impossible, Nora whispered. The Vress have heat sensors that can detect a rabbit from a mile away. Kelly shrugged. Maybe the wolves figured out how to avoid them. They stick to caves and dense forest during drone sweeps. They cross rivers to break scent trails. They're adapting. Nora stared at a video clip of Ghost leading his pack across a mountain meadow. Their movements were confident, purposeful. Nothing like the dull-eyed improved animals in the Vress facilities. The Vress don't understand, Nora said. Wolves evolved alongside humans for thousands of years. They're smart, social, adaptable. And now they might be our best hope, Kelly added. The Resistance has been monitoring the Vress wildlife zones. Their ecosystem is failing. Without natural predators, some species are overpopulating. Others are disappearing. Nora thought of the countless reports she had filed that the Vress ignored. They won't listen. They believe their system is perfect. Then maybe we need to show them they're wrong. Kelly leaned forward. Your brother says you have access to the main research facility. Could you get us in? Nora's heart raced. What are you planning? What if we could prove that wolves are necessary? That Earth needs its predators. Kelly's eyes were intense. We need someone on the inside who understands both wolves and the Vress. Nora looked again at the image of Ghost. Wild. Free. Everything the Vress feared and couldn't control. I'll help, she said finally, but we need to be careful. If the Vress discover real wolves still exist, they'll stop at nothing to eliminate them. Outside, the sun was setting. Somewhere in the distant mountains, Ghost's pack was hunting under the same sky, waiting, surviving, proving that Earth wasn't tamed yet. The forest was silent except for the soft crunch of leaves under their boots. Ellen led the way, with Kelly close behind, and Nora following carefully. They had been hiking since dawn, moving deeper into the restricted wilderness area. Are you sure this is safe? Nora whispered, glancing at the sky for Vress drones. Ellen nodded. Drone patterns are predictable. None scheduled for this sector until tomorrow. Kelly pointed to a fallen log. Look. They crouched down. Clear paw prints marked the soft dirt, wolf tracks, fresh from that morning. They came this way, Kelly said, touching the prints gently. At least 5 of them. They followed the tracks for another mile until Alan suddenly raised his hand, signaling them to stop. Ahead, in a small clearing, was Ghost's pack. The wolves hadn't noticed them yet. 7 gray shapes moved through the tall grass, led by the large silver male. Alan handed Nora a pair of binoculars. Watch them. Through the lenses, Nora observed the wolves working together to surround a small herd of deer. Their movements were precise, coordinated without any visible signals. Ghost directed the hunt with subtle body language, positioning each pack member exactly where they needed to be. The wolves took down an old buck, weak and limping. They allowed the stronger deer to escape. Nothing was wasted. The younger wolves ate only after the breeding pair, when smaller animals approached for scraps. The wolves ignored them. Perfect balance, Nora whispered. They're only taking what they need. Keep watching, Kelly said. After feeding, the wolves began to play. They chased each other through the clearing, playfully nipping and wrestling. A younger wolf found a fallen branch and carried it proudly, inviting others to chase him. Their behavior was complex, social, intelligent. The Vress don't see this, Nora said. They only see dangerous predators. Look at Ghost, Alan pointed. The alpha wolf had stopped playing. His ears perked up, sensing something. With a quiet growl, he led the pack away from the clearing, disappearing into the trees. Moments later, they heard it too, the distant hum of a Vress drone. That's not supposed to be here today, Alan said, checking his schedule. They changed their patterns. They quickly found cover under thick trees. The drone passed overhead, its sensors scanning the forest below. It hovered near the deer carcass, recording data, then continued its search pattern. The wolves knew before we did, Kelly said when the drone was gone. They sensed it coming. They're learning, Nora realized, adapting to avoid detection. Later, at their campsite, Nora reviewed the footage Kelly had captured. The wolves' behavior was nothing like the dull, predictable patterns of the Vress-modified animals. The Vress are reporting problems in their controlled zones, Alan said, warming his hands by their small fire. Deer populations exploding. Vegetation damage. Disease spreading among overcrowded species. Without predators, there's no balance, Nora said. Even with their technology, the Vress can't replace millions of years of natural evolution. We need to show them, Kelly insisted. Make them understand. Nora thought about the Vress research facility where she worked. Commander Zixtal has been ordered to fix the ecosystem problems. He's under pressure from the collective. If we could somehow demonstrate the wolves' value. It's too dangerous, Alan warned. If the Vress discover wild wolves still exist, they'll destroy them. Maybe not, Nora said slowly, an idea forming. What if we presented it as an experiment? A controlled study of predator introduction. Kelly looked skeptical. The Vress would never agree. They might, Nora said, if they believe they're in control. If they think they can study the wolves and eventually modify them. You're talking about capturing a wolf? Alan asked. Nora nodded. Just one. A young female, maybe, smart enough to demonstrate natural wolf behavior, but not Ghost. We can't risk him. Even if it works, Kelly said, what's to stop the Vress from killing her once they've studied her? Me, Nora said firmly. I'll be running the study. And by the time it's complete, they'll understand that wolves aren't the enemy. They're necessary. As night fell over the forest, they could hear distant howling. Ghost's pack calling to each other across the valleys. The sound echoed through the darkness, wild and free, a reminder that not everything on Earth had been tamed. The Vress Command Center buzzed with activity. Nora stood before a large screen, her hands steadied despite her racing heart. Commander Zixtal, and 3 other VRES officials watched her presentation with unblinking compound eyes. As you can see, Nora explained, pointing to the charts, the deer population has increased by 200% in just 1 year. They're destroying plant life faster than it can regrow. We can modify the deer to eat less, one VRES suggested, mandibles clicking. Or increase plant growth rates, another added. Nora took a deep breath. Or we could introduce a natural predator to create balance. The room went silent. Zixtal's antennae twitched with obvious displeasure. Human Simmons, predators are classified as dangerous and unpredictable. With respect, Commander, Nora continued carefully, VRES science prides itself on observation and adaptation. Would a controlled experiment not provide valuable data? The VRES looked at each other, communicating in their clicking language. Finally, Zixtal turned back to Nora. Explain your proposal. Nora brought up new slides. A single predator introduced to a contained area. Complete monitoring. If problems arise, we terminate the experiment. What predator do you suggest? Zixtal asked suspiciously. A young wolf, Nora said, trying to sound casual. Modified with your tracking technology, of course. More clicking discussions among the VRES. Nora waited, heart pounding. The collective sees potential value in your experiment, Zixtal finally announced. However, we will select and modify the specimen ourselves. Of course, Nora agreed, hiding her alarm. But may I suggest that minimal modifications would provide better data? We want to observe natural behaviors. After more discussion, the VRES agreed. Nora was given 1 week to locate a suitable wolf. The VRES would then capture it and outfit it with their tracking devices. That night, Nora met Alan and Kelly in an old barn outside town. They approved it, she told them, but they want to choose and modify the wolf themselves. Alan shook his head. If they start poking around the forest, they'll find Ghost's pack. We need to find a wolf first, Kelly said. One young enough to adapt but old enough to demonstrate natural behavior. And we need to keep Ghost's pack away during the capture, Nora added. For the next 3 days, they tracked the wolves from a safe distance. Ghost's pack had a routine. They hunted in the northern valley at dawn, then rested in the shelter of a rocky area during the day. There, Kelly whispered, pointing through her binoculars. The young female with the white mark on her chest. She often scouts ahead of the others. Nora observed the wolf. She was smaller than the others, but moved with confidence. She's perfect, Nora agreed. But how do we separate her from the pack? Alan showed them a map. Here. The pack crosses this narrow pass every morning. We can set up here and here. When she comes through, we close off both ends. We'll need to keep Ghost distracted, Kelly warned. Leave that to me, Alan said. I know this forest better than anyone except those wolves. The plan was set for the next morning. As dawn broke, they took their positions. Alan had set up speakers on the far side of the valley, ready to play recorded wolf calls to draw Ghost's pack away from their target. The wolves appeared right on schedule. Ghost led them down the trail, alert and watchful. Behind him came the others, including the young female with the white chest mark. Alan activated the speakers. Strange wolf calls echoed through the valley. Ghost froze, ears forward. He growled and changed direction, leading most of the pack toward the sound. The young female hesitated, caught between following the pack and investigating a scent she had detected. She chose to continue along the original path, now alone. This was their chance. Kelly and Nora quickly moved into position. The female wolf sensed them and tried to retreat, but the path was blocked. She growled, looking for escape. Easy, Nora said softly, raising the tranquilizer gun. I'm sorry about this. The dart hit its mark. The wolf fought against the sedative for several seconds before collapsing. They worked quickly, loading her into a special crate in their truck. I'll stay and make sure Ghost doesn't follow, Alan said. Get her to the facility before she wakes up. As Nora drove away with Kelly and their captive, she glanced in the mirror. In the distance, she could see Ghost standing on a ridge, watching. Even from far away, his posture conveyed something that looked remarkably like calculation. "We'll call her Luna," Nora said quietly. "And I promise she's going to change everything." Luna woke in a large enclosure surrounded by trees and rocks. A stream ran through the middle, and deer grazed in the distance. For a moment, it almost looked like her home territory. Then she noticed the invisible barrier shimmering at the edges and the strange devices mounted on poles throughout the area. In a control room overlooking the enclosure, Nora watched anxiously as Luna explored her new environment. Commander Zixtal stood beside her, along with another Vress scientist she hadn't met before. "The specimen has been fitted with our tracking technology," Zixtal explained. "Its vital signs and movements will be recorded at all times." "Her," Nora corrected gently. "She's a female." The other Vress moved closer to the window. "Fascinating creature. I am Dr. Clid Venn, Ecological Sciences Division. Dr. Clid Venn has been studying Earth's historical ecosystem models," Zixtal explained. "The collective has granted permission for him to observe your experiment." Nora nodded politely, but inside she was worried. Another observer meant more scrutiny. She glanced at the small device on Luna's collar. Kelly had managed to switch the Vress tracking device with a regular Earth one that looked identical. The Vress would receive the data they expected, but Luna remained unmodified. "Will the specimen hunt soon?" Dr. Clid Venn asked. "She needs to establish her territory first," Nora explained. "Wolves have specific behaviors. It's not just about hunger." As they watched, Luna marked the boundaries of her enclosure, sniffing carefully at each new area. She found the highest rock and climbed it, surveying her surroundings. Her movements were confident, purposeful, nothing like the docile animals the Vress had engineered. "Its behavior is not what I expected," Zixtal admitted, antennae twitching. For 5 days, they observed Luna. She quickly established hunting patterns, taking down only the weakest deer. The ecosystem began to respond almost immediately. Deer changed their grazing habits, moving more, eating less in any one area. Plants that had been overgrazed started to recover. On the 6th night, Luna did something unexpected. She howled. The sound echoed through the facility, a long, haunting call that made the Vress researchers visibly uncomfortable. Their antennae flattened against their heads, and they stepped back from the windows. "What is that sound?" Dr. Clid Venn asked, his voice higher than normal. "She's calling to her pack," Nora explained. "Wolves are social animals. They communicate through howling." "Make it stop," Commander Zixtal ordered. "I can't," Nora said. "This is natural wolf behavior. This is what the experiment is about." Luna howled again, longer this time. The Vress in the room began to click rapidly to each other, their compound eyes reflecting the emergency lights that had automatically activated. "The sound is primitively unsettling," Dr. Clid Venn said finally. "It triggers responses in our neural pathways that are most unpleasant." Nora hid her surprise. The Vress were afraid of the howling. Something about it disturbed them on a deep level. The next morning, Nora arrived early to find Dr. Clid Venn already in the observation room, studying Luna with intense interest. "You were not scheduled until later," he said when he noticed Nora. "I was worried about Luna," she admitted. "Luna, you have named the specimen." "Yes, it helps me track her individual data." Dr. Clid Venn turned back to the window. "I have been reviewing historical Earth data. Wolves played a significant role in your ecosystems for millions of years before the collective arrived." "They did," Nora agreed carefully. "Yet the collective classified them as dangerous and unpredictable." The Vress scientist's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "I am beginning to question this assessment." Outside in the enclosure, Luna raised her head and looked directly at the observation window. Her yellow eyes seemed to stare right at them, intelligent and knowing. "Sometimes," Nora said quietly, What seems unpredictable is just something we don't yet understand. In the distance, beyond the facility's perimeter, a faint howl echoed across the valley. Luna's ears perked up immediately. She raced to the highest point in her enclosure and howled back. Dr. Klidven's compound eyes widened. There are others outside our facility. Nora's heart raced, but she kept her voice calm. Probably just wildlife recordings from the adjacent zones. Sound carries far in these mountains. But she knew the truth. Ghost had found Luna. And somehow he was letting her know she wasn't alone. 2 weeks into the experiment, Nora presented her findings to a group of VRES officials. Her charts showed clear improvements in the test ecosystem. Plants were recovering. Deer were healthier. The whole system was becoming balanced again. As you can see, Nora explained, predator introduction has stabilized the population levels. Luna has removed only the weakest deer, which has strengthened the overall herd. Commander Zixtal clicked his mandibles. The specimen's behavior remains within acceptable parameters. Yes, Nora said. She's acting exactly as a wolf should. And the noise issue? Another VRES asked. The howling has decreased, Nora lied. In truth, Luna howled every night, and each time, Ghost's pack answered from the distant hills. After the meeting, Dr. Klidven approached Nora privately. Your data is compelling, Human Simmons. I have submitted a request to expand the study area. Nora tried to hide her surprise. Expand it? Yes, I believe we should observe the specimen in a larger territory. The collective needs more data before reconsidering the classification of wolves. This was progress, but Nora felt uneasy. What does Commander Zixtal think? He remains cautious. Dr. Klidven's antennae twitched. Between us, I believe he fears what we might discover. That night, Nora met Kelly and Alan in their usual spot behind the old barn. They want to expand the test area, she told them. Dr. Klidven seems genuinely interested in the results. Can we trust him? Ellen asked. I'm not sure. He's different from the other VRES. More curious, less rigid. Kelly pulled out her tablet. I got news too. Look at this. She showed them security footage from the facility perimeter. A small maintenance drone was malfunctioning, creating a gap in the fence sensors. That section will be offline for scheduled repairs tomorrow between 2 and 4 p.m., Kelly explained. If Luna could somehow find that gap, she could escape, Nora finished. But would that help our cause or hurt it? If she escapes and returns to Ghost, we lose our chance to prove wolves belong in the ecosystem, Alan said. But if she escapes and stays near the facility, hunting in view of the VRES, Kelly suggested. They looked at each other, understanding the risk. If Luna escaped but remained visible, continuing to improve the ecosystem outside containment, it would be powerful proof of what wolves could do. The next day, Nora arrived at the facility to find alarms blaring. VRES security teams rushed through the corridors. Commander Zixtal was in the control room, mandibles clicking rapidly. What happened? Nora asked, pretending to be surprised. The specimen has escaped, Zixtal said, his voice cold. A malfunction in the containment field. Nora looked at the monitors. They showed Luna slipping through the gap in the fence, exactly where Kelly had predicted. We must recapture it immediately, Zixtal ordered. Wait, Dr. Klidven interrupted. The tracking device is still active. We can observe it from a distance. This is an unexpected opportunity to gather data on natural behavior. Zixtal hesitated, his compound eyes shifting between Dr. Klidven and Nora. Very well, but security teams will stand ready. For the next 3 days, they tracked Luna through the monitors. Instead of running to the distant mountains where Ghost's pack lived, she stayed surprisingly close to the facility. She hunted in the nearby valleys, taking down 3 sickly deer in the overpopulated herd. When the VRES sent capture teams, Luna somehow evaded them every time. She seemed to predict their methodical search patterns, disappearing minutes before they arrived, only to reappear elsewhere. "This is impossible," Commander Zixtal complained. "The specimen is displaying strategic behavior, almost as if she's intelligent," Dr. Klibven finished. "Perhaps we have underestimated these creatures." Nora's data continued to show improvements in the ecosystem, even stronger now that Luna could move freely. The deer were healthier, the vegetation was recovering, and smaller animals were returning to areas they had abandoned. On the fourth night, everything changed. Nora was reviewing footage when the perimeter alarms activated. On the screens, she saw movement at the edge of the forest. Not just Luna, but multiple wolves. Ghost's pack had arrived. Commander Zixtal burst into the control room. "Multiple predator signals detected. Initiate extermination protocol immediately." Nora felt cold fear grip her heart. The moment she had dreaded had come. The Vress had discovered Ghost's pack, and now they were going to destroy it. Chaos erupted at the facility. Alarm lights flashed as Vress security teams rushed to their positions. Outside, Ghost's pack moved like shadows along the perimeter. Nora counted 7 wolves, including Ghost himself, his silver fur visible in the moonlight. "Launch containment drones," Commander Zixtal ordered. "Activate defense systems." "Wait." Dr. Klibven stepped forward. "We should observe first. This behavior is unprecedented." But Zixtal ignored him. Doors opened in the facility walls, and 12 combat drones flew out. They formed a search pattern, their weapons ready to fire tranquilizer darts that would paralyze or kill the wolves. Nora watched in horror on the monitors. "Please," she begged. "This is a chance to study wolf pack behavior. Don't destroy them." On the screens, something strange happened. Ghost gave a short bark, and the pack suddenly split up. 3 wolves ran east, 2 went west, while Ghost and another wolf headed straight north. The drones, programmed to follow heat signatures, became confused. Their neat search pattern broke apart as they tried to track multiple targets. "What is happening?" Zixtal clicked angrily. "Why are they separating?" "They're using tactics," Dr. Klidven said, his voice filled with surprise. "Deliberate distraction methods." The wolves led the drones on a complex chase. When a drone got close to one wolf, another would appear and draw it away. They used the terrain to their advantage, running through dense trees where drones had trouble following. "This is impossible." Commander Zixtal's antennae twitched frantically. "These are simple animals. They cannot be coordinating like this." "But they are." Dr. Klidven moved closer to the screen. "These aren't simple animals. They're intelligent hunters with problem-solving abilities we didn't account for." Nora spotted Alan and Kelly on a different monitor. They were using the confusion to enter the facility through a maintenance door. The security systems were too busy tracking wolves to notice them. On the main screen, Ghost led 3 drones towards a narrow canyon. The drones followed, their programming forcing them to stay on his trail. But the canyon was too narrow for their wings. One crashed into the wall. Another damaged its sensors on a low branch. The third became stuck between rocks. "Send the ground units," Zixtal ordered, his voice rising in pitch. 4 Vress security vehicles raced out of the facility. They carried more advanced weapons and tracking systems. This was the real danger to the wolves. Suddenly, the power in the control room flickered. The screens went dark for a moment, then returned showing only static. "What is happening?" Zixtal demanded. Nora pretended to check the systems. Some kind of power surge, maybe related to the drone crashes. She knew the truth. Alan and Kelly had reached the main control center and disabled the primary systems. "Switch to backup power," Zixtal ordered. When the screens came back on, they showed a new problem. The wolves had disappeared from all tracking systems. The security vehicles circled in confusion, their sensors unable to locate any targets. Where did they go? Zixtal's voice was almost a shriek now. "Find them." Dr. Klidven studied the screens carefully. They appear to have hidden their heat signatures somehow. Nora knew what had happened. Ghost had led the pack to the river that ran through the property. Wolves were excellent swimmers, and the cold water would mask their body heat from Vress sensors. The control room doors slid open. Kelly stepped in, wearing a stolen Vress maintenance uniform. "Security systems are malfunctioning throughout the facility," she announced calmly. "Teams are working to restore functionality." Zixtal barely glanced at her, too focused on the screens. "How long until systems are restored?" "Unknown at this time," Kelly replied, catching Nora's eye briefly. Outside, the wolves had emerged from the river on the far bank. Instead of running away into the wilderness, they circled back toward the facility. Ghost led them toward the area where Luna had been hunting, the overpopulated deer herd that was damaging the forest. As the Vress scrambled to fix their systems, the wolves began to hunt. Their movements were perfectly coordinated, each wolf knowing exactly what to do without visible signals. They moved like a single organism with many parts. "Remarkable," Dr. Clib Venn whispered, watching the wolves work together. "They hunt with more efficiency than our most advanced drones, more intelligence than our modified species." Even Commander Zixtal had fallen silent, watching the wolves with a mixture of fear and fascination. "They're not just animals," Nora said quietly. "They're part of Earth. They evolved here, shaped by millions of years alongside other species. They belong here." On the screen, Ghost stood on a hill overlooking the facility, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. He threw back his head and howled, a sound that seemed to carry a clear message to the aliens who thought they had tamed Earth. "You were wrong." Morning light revealed the results of the night's hunt. The wolf pack had taken down 7 deer, all of them old or sick. They had worked together with perfect efficiency, using less energy and causing less suffering than the Vress drones ever could. Nora, Commander Zixtal, and Dr. Clib Venn stood on a hill overlooking the valley. The facility's systems were coming back online, but the wolves had already made their point. "Look at the deer herd now." Nora pointed to where the remaining deer grazed. "They're moving differently, more alert, healthier." It was true. The deer were spreading out, grazing less in any one area. The weak ones had been removed from the gene pool. Already the ecosystem was responding, finding its natural balance. "The wolves have done in one night what our systems failed to do in months," Dr. Clib Venn observed. Commander Zixtal's antennae twitched with agitation. "They are still dangerous predators, unpredictable." "Are they?" Nora asked. "They're predictable if you understand them. They take the weak. They strengthen the herd. They balance the ecosystem." In the distance, they could see Ghost's pack resting near the edge of the forest. Luna had joined them, reunited with her family. They had made no attempt to leave the area, almost as if they wanted the Vress to continue watching them. Alan and Kelly approached, having been caught during the system's failure and now pretending to be helpful staff members. "The main sensors are back online," Alan reported. "We can track the wolf pack again if you wish." Commander Zixtal was silent for a long moment. Then he surprised them all. "That will not be necessary," he said. "Dr. Clib Venn, prepare a full report for the collective. Include all data from last night." Dr. Clib Venn's compound eyes seemed to brighten. "You're not ordering their elimination. The collective bases decisions on data," Zixtal said stiffly. "We require more data." It wasn't a victory, but it was a start. Nora hid her smile. Over the next week, the Vress observed Ghost's pack from a distance. The wolves established a territory that included the facilities surrounding land. They hunted regularly, maintaining the perfect balance between predator and prey. Dr. Clib Venn spent hours collecting data, often asking Nora questions about wolf behavior and Earth's ecosystems. His interest seemed genuine, his respect for the wolves growing each day. Then the message came from the Vress Collective. Everyone was called to the main meeting room. "The collective has reviewed our findings," Commander Zixtal announced. His voice was formal, but Nora detected something new in it, a reluctant respect. They have determined that certain Earth species, including wolves, possess complex behavioral patterns that our models fail to predict. Nora held her breath. Furthermore, Zixtal continued, the collective acknowledges that Earth's ecosystems evolved over millions of years to reach a balance that our intervention has disrupted. Dr. Klidven stepped forward. In light of this new understanding, the collective has revised its occupation protocols. We will begin withdrawing from direct control of Earth's wilderness areas. Nora could hardly believe what she was hearing. Alan and Kelly exchanged careful glances, trying not to show their excitement. Does this mean the wolves can stay? Nora asked. Yes, Dr. Klidven confirmed. Not only the wolves, but all of Earth's natural predators will be reclassified. We will establish new treaties recognizing humans as the rightful custodians of your planet's ecological systems. 3 days later, Nora stood with Alan and Kelly on a hilltop. Below them, ghost pack hunted in the valley. Above them, Vresh ships rose into the sky, beginning their withdrawal from the wilderness zones. I still can't believe it worked, Kelly said, watching the ships depart. The Vres aren't evil, Nora replied. Just arrogant. They thought they could improve on nature because they didn't understand it. And our wolves taught them otherwise, Alan added with a smile. As the sun set, Luna separated from the pack and trotted up the hill toward them. She stopped a safe distance away, regarding them with intelligent eyes. She still wore the tracker around her neck, a reminder of her time in captivity. Luna threw back her head and howled. The sound echoed across the valley, and Ghost's pack answered from below. Even the departing Vresh ships seemed to hesitate at the sound. It was no longer a noise that represented primitive chaos to the aliens. Now it was the sound of Earth's wild heart beating once again. Powerful, complex, and beautifully untamed.